Hey, Eric, can you hear us? Hello, everyone. We'll start here soon. Just give us another minute here. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
How's everybody doing today? Well, we got a whole bunch of questions here today, a bunch of good questions that we're looking forward to answering. I don't think I can get some people ask quite a few questions, so I'll try to answer some of them, but I don't think I can get to every single one of them. But we will try. And we're going to start. Is it time, you think? Yeah. It'll start with Osaka's question.
Okay.
Can you talk about magic and what you think of it? I came across a group called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn from a Facebook ad. They apparently use a lot of magic and rituals and offer to teach magic and spells. What's the difference between Daskalos's work and magic? Well, I just want to say, what's the difference between riding a rocket ship and roller skates? A lot difference. I'm also reading a book by Franz Barton, an early 20th century Czech occultist who apparently had a goal of bringing hermetics to the world. I noticed a lot of his teachings mirrored with what Daskalos said, but he teaches magic as well. Interested in your thoughts. Daskalos was the worst opponent to magic. He did not want to make black magicians, so he withheld information from certain students who he knew would try to use it in that way. But let me just say a little bit about this. Before Christ came, way back a long time ago, all the spiritual seekers had was magic formulas and rituals. They didn't really understand about developing psychonoetically, which is mentally and emotionally. In other words, raising your consciousness and uplifting your self-awareness. So that's all they had. All they had these spells. Now I'm not going to go into it too deeply, but when you do a magic spell, you're doing it not from yourself, not from your inner self. Your inner self has no need of magic spells. People try to use magic spells to reach their inner self sometimes, but most of the time it's about getting powers and abilities. And they'll do spells and rituals, and the things will happen. It'll really happen. They think, well, this is true. I'm on the right path. But what they do not realize is that there are certain undesirable entities that when they see you do the magic spell, they will make it happen for you. They will heal people for you for the sole purpose of getting you caught into that whole thing where they're doing the work. Now, you don't realize it's the elementals doing the work. You don't realize these entities are behind the scenes making these things happen. But at the end of the day, they come back and then demand something back from you. They've been giving you something for a while, giving you answers and doing all this stuff. It's low level stuff. It's not, Christ consciousness things, but they'll give you information. It seems to be true, and it is true, but it's not. You haven't got there on your own power. These magic formulas. You take the magic formulas away, you'll never get anything again. So what we want is to develop psychonoetically. We want to raise our consciousness, lift our self-awareness, so we go there in our natural way. And we I want to say own it, but we know how to get there. We know how to get back there. It's not depending on something external like a magic formula. It's not depending on something external like a guru who has to take you across to the other side. It's depending upon you making this connection with the inner self, and that's what's making your life work. So magic formulas, Dascos was against it. He hated it. In fact, there were students who tried to do it this way in his system, and he would shut them down because it just traps the personality in this process they don't really understand, depending on an external thing, and they're really being served by entities. If they saw what they looked like, they would not want to see that. Okay.
As we know, God is almightiness. God can do everything. Then, but we can use this almighty power for good purpose and bad purpose. But we can tell which one is good and which one is bad. The Scar says, magic is magic. No, all brown magic, black magic, everything is magic, which means once we use this divine power for something selfish or something, even though we think of it like for the other purpose, other people's sake, but we have to check this motivation very carefully. Otherwise, even though we feel like we are developing, actually, when we are using this divine power for our own sake, egoistic purpose, or relating to materialistic, earth element, desire things, then even though we feel it, we are developing, actually we are going down, falling down. But we feel like we are so developed, we become so skillful and so developed, that gives us more egoism. So in this teaching, the scholar says we use this power, divine power, just for healing, helping people purely, sincerely. This is the way to use this power.
And she said a good point, motivation, because sometimes people will approach magic and rituals and formulas and all that kind of stuff, and they don't have a bad motivation. No, they want to do good. They want to do good. But the trouble is motivations change over time. And these entities really tempt you into thinking you're making this happen. So oftentimes the person's egotism swells and they think, oh, what a good boy am I? Look at all this good I'm doing. But they don't realize what's really happening, nor do they realize the cost to them. And this is particularly noticeable in channeling. The mediums are used by these entities, and they'll tell them what the people want to know. So they keep coming back to an energy, the connection with the entities. But at the end of the day, at the end of a lifetime, usually that medium becomes very, very weak and sick, and sometimes they have more undesirable things.
That's why in this teaching system we put the focus to cleanse our body, 3 bodies, which means we put best focus on introspection. So in a sense, once we cleanse our body, the 3 bodies completely, we can express this power, life, naturally.
Next question is from Joseph. He says he has a friend and she was working with a pendulum, was cleaning with a pendulum his car from bad influences. It was surprising to me that she was really fixed the problem on my car. It was not visible, but was making difficulties. How is this possible? Did she subconsciously send an elemental to fix it? Yeah, basically. If it got really fixed that way, yeah, that's right. People can send curses and they lock on things. People can send blessings and they lock on things. And the blessings or the curses are an elemental, of course, and they produce effects depending upon the strength of it. He says, I also know some people, and they claim that they can clean a place, a car, people from curses and bad influence. Clients claim, I've heard from them, that after cleaning, they feel much businesses are better. Can you put a light on how it's working? It's all elemental. Everything that's happening in man's world and natural world was created by an elemental. A tree is an elemental of an archangel. So everything that's happening is built by these elementals, but we can't see them. So you can definitely, like I said, put a blessing or a curse on a place. I know a guy who was involved with black magic in Brazil, and he wasn't a good guy. And he went and he hired a black magician to put a spell on a competitor's business, and the business failed. And then the competitor put a spell on his house, and there was a landslide. His house crashed. And then last time I heard from him, he was dead. So I don't know what happened to him down there in Brazil, but these things have real powerful effects. So we have to be really careful about it.
Yep.
Okay. This is another question he's asking. There are some exercises from the Researchers of Truth, and it's written, open fields of consciousness. What is a field of consciousness and how to open it in practical sense? Well, Charles says this is a most interesting question. And when I saw this morning, I thought about it. I don't ever remember Daskalos ever saying, open the fields of your consciousness. So to be sure, I searched through the database of the outer circle, the innermost circle, and the inmost circle lessons. And I find no place he mentions it. But I do know what you're talking about. This is in one of Panayota's meditations, where she says, open the fields of your consciousness. So since it's her meditation, I suggest you ask her what she means by that. What about left-handed people, he asked. I heard that currents are changed. Can you say something about that and why it's so? Okay. Think of our hands. What are our hands? They're centers of energy. And when we cross them like this, we create circuits. Now, one of the common ones is we hook our thumbs together and place it over the heart. And in doing so, we can energize those centers, especially alongside breathing. We can really put a lot of energy into the centers. But when we say, put your right hand over your left, a left-handed person is going to do it the other way. For a left-handed person, what? For a left-handed person, for us, a right-handed person, us, the left side of our body and the left side of the symbol of life is the Holy Spiritual, the level of the archangelic expression. So to come in contact, we can use the currents on this side of the body. But for a left-hand person, it's going to be the other way. It's going to be on the right-hand side of the body. However, the symbol of life is constructed the same, but the currents move differently. Yeah, and so all we're doing by this is magnetizing these centers with our hands. Um, and it's a great practice, especially when you breathe. And you can put it on your solar plexus and really feel that. That's a great place to store a lot of energy. It's really easy and safe to store energy in the solar plexus.
So we always put our dominant hand on the top. So if we are right-handed, we place it on the top of the left hand. If we are left-handed, we place the dominant left hand on the top. Even if we do work on the people, physical direct healing, if we are right-handed, we place the hand on the top, dominant. And then receive the energy. Of course, we can receive the energy from everywhere, every molecule in the cells, but through hand, we receive, if we are right-handed, we receive the energy from left-handed and pass it to the people, to ourselves from right. If we use both hands, we place it, as I said, place the dominant hand on the top.
I have a question from Chris. Not to begin a debate, but if I'm forced to take the COVID shot, how can I best protect myself or my loved ones from any harmful shot or long-term side effects which could occur? The orange light, a powerful prayer ball of light or shield? Is there anything we can do that you can recommend? Yeah, I have to be careful because, as you probably are aware, social media is censoring anybody that does not say what the official storyline has been presented to us. And I'm so tempted to talk about it, but I better not. So anyway, instead of saying for the COVID shot, the V word, I'm just going to say V because you'll know what I mean and they won't be able to catch that we're talking about it. So I just want to throw out a couple little thoughts. I really don't want to tell you what's really happening. I want you to research yourself to find the truth and you decide what's really happening. And I think we're going to see more and more revealed, but I just want to throw out a couple of thoughts for you. In 2018, there were 85 deaths from V. Okay. 2019, 119 deaths from V. 2020, 203 deaths from Vs. The first quarter of 2021, 3,362 deaths. Does that make sense? Some years ago, I think it was 2015, we had a SARS virus, a real much deadlier virus than the COVID going around, and they made a V for it. I think this is 2005. But when they started giving the V to the people, 15 people died, and they stopped it completely. Why aren't they stopping this from the death of the V? We really have to do, we're researchers. And this, I mean, it's not just about researching spiritual things. We live in a material world. We're a citizen of a spiritual world and a material world, and we have to be good citizens in both worlds. That means we have to research the truth of each world. So I highly recommend that you don't try to do it through Google, though. You have to go to like duckduckgo.com because Google censors so many things. And you have to ask yourself why they're accepting these high death rates from the vaccine. Now, what you can do is, obviously the best thing is don't take the V, but you shouldn't refuse the V if you're put in a position to that somebody like your employer is trying to give it to you. You shouldn't refuse it, but you can deny it. If you refuse it, they're going to shame you. Oh, you're going to give this to everybody. They're going to really try to shame you into texting it. But you must decline it because it's an untested medical experiment. Untested because they never tested it on humans. They tested it on the cats and ferrets. They died. All of them died. The other thing is it's not tested. The makers have got legislation so they can't be sued. So if you get hurt or dead, you're on your own. The doctor who gives it to you will not take responsibility for it either because it's untested. And I think in England, maybe elsewhere, but for sure in England, if you take the COVID vaccine and die within 6 months to a year, I think it is, your life insurance won't pay for your health because you've taken an experimental, this is what they say in the insurance company, an experimental drug. Now, Google will poo-poo that story altogether, but there are people who are reported that's happened to them. So I know it's somewhat true in certain, maybe with certain companies, or maybe all of them. I don't know. None of us know. So if you die, they said, well, you've taken a medical experiment. We don't cover that. So you're going to lose your insurance. The second thing you can do, other than just declining it, I should say, is to do the breathing exercises we teach and the meditations, because these really, really energize us. And a strong body is immune to this. That's what a researcher does not have to be about viruses. Why would he ever say that? Well, he told you, because these things build up the body's immune system. The more etheric vitality we can charge into our body, the stronger our immune system gets. So this is the real power over the viruses. Viruses have been around since man's been around longer. So there's natural body mechanisms to energize, and one of it is just making sure your body is overcharged with etheric vitality, and you do that by breathing exercises. Aki's given a lot of good breathing exercises that you just start doing them, it's going to happen automatically. Chris asked about the orange ball. Yeah, we can put an orange ball at the throat and we hold it for maybe 2 to 3 minutes, not super long. And we do it there, and it's a bright, strong, it's not a pale pastel, it's bright and strong. And its vibrations burn viruses and microbes that are harmful to the body. So when you put the ball there, also program the subconscious. To give yourself the auto suggestion. It's burning, just to reinforce it, it's burning all viruses and germs harmful to the material body. And the reason we do it there is because the blood circulates through the thyroid every 11 to 13 minutes. So it's a great exercise. Let's see, what else can you do? Yeah, the other one is the program of subconsciousness. Just keep programming yourself by perfect health. And a lot of these exercises and meditations, at the end, I would say, I want perfect health in my body. I don't want to feel good. I want perfect health in my body.
Yes, this is what he says right now. Is exactly what I wanted to add on his comment. Many good exercises. Breathing exercise works, and also exhale over works with thyroid orange ball light. But please don't do it more than 5 minutes, not too long, because it's too intense. I already made a meditation for that, so I am going to provide it. That works, that exercise will work. And also, as we know very well, Three Suns meditation, that works a lot. So those kind of simple exercises works a lot. But as he says at the end of the exercise, we always make affirmation. This is the most important process. So whenever or whatever exercise you do for protecting yourself or health, please don't doubt it. Or don't feel anxiety. Oh, Daniel and Aki said that recommend this meditation, but does this really work? Even 1% or 2% of this kind of doubt or anxiety destroyed all our effort. So it's nowadays we have to observe what's going on in the world very carefully, but please don't take unnecessary anxiety or fear inside of yourself. Rather than that, taking the same time, same energy, create very healthy elemental for ourselves and for your beloved one.
Another question they ask is, what's the difference between praying for someone to be safe versus sending a sphere of light around them, or sending a ball of light or a thought form, an elemental to them? Hmm. Well, the moment you think about praying for someone or helping someone, you send them an elemental of healing. The visualization part, the shield, the energy, the stars, or whatever other thought forms you want to send them, it just makes it so much stronger. It empowers it. Thought is very powerful, but visualization is the way to harness it. So just having a thought you want to help somebody, it's good. It sends a nice positive elemental to the person. But when you start visualizing it, it makes it much, much more powerful. And then the next part of the question, if God knows what's in our heart, why must we pray for someone's healing or safety? And it's the same thing. We're just strengthening it. We're energizing it. Healing and helping people is not a passive work. It's an active work. So it's not good enough just to say, "Oh, well, I care for that person." We want to try to help them. So we want to do what we know in these teachings can help people, and that is prayer and visualization for sure.
The whole point is we do it consciously. You know, uh, the prayer, when we make a prayer, all the time, if we think of other people, most of the time we make a prayer for other people. But using the golden key, one of the golden key, concentration, visualization, observation, and we concentrate energy to create a certain strong thought form, creative thought form, and send it. We do it consciously, and we use a kind of symbol or shape. Symbol and shape has the meaning behind it. So once we create a shape or symbol, whatever, automatically it includes, it has a meaning in it, strength of the meaning in it. And at the end of the exercise, we give it once again affirmation of the meaning of it, and send it consciously to other people or to ourselves. That's why it really works. So we do kind of double work, not only just praying for someone subconsciously or consciously. The strength is different. Mm.
Orson asks, it's so hard for me to keep the concentration on the images, the visualized images, and especially colors during the meditation without my subconscious altering them all the time. Is there anything more that can help except for more practice? There are only three things that can help: our practice, 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 because it's a skill that we have to develop. And what happens, and this is really the first part of the practice before you even try to do the visualized images, you should start practicing with creating a door, a wall between your subconscious mind and conscious mind. You can visualize it, you can imagine it, you can just say it's there. You can put a guard at the door to do it. But by doing that, we build a big, beautiful wall, and the subconscious is the one that's paying for it. It's the one that's doing it because we're telling it to do it, and it follows our orders. So practice is definitely the best thing. And one of the best practices before you try to get real deep into visualizations is just sit down for a week in the morning for 10 minutes and just pay attention to what thoughts come to your mind. These are the elementals that have the right to rise from our subconsciousness and knock on the door of the consciousness and make demands to be fed by the energy of our attention, of course. And so we have to learn how to deal with that process and to silence that. So the first thing we do is just try to know what's happening. Like, what are our thoughts? We sit there and then we have this thought, and this thought makes us want to go up and wax the car or whatever. We have all these thoughts that try to pull us out of what we're doing into action. And the idea is not to do that, not to follow that, not to suppress them, but not to follow them either. So we just want to be aware of what kind of things are happening with this and how this process works. So we just observe. This is an observation exercise. And like I said, they come up to the subconscious mind and they ask for our attention. So the first week, you don't try to stop them. You don't try to push them back or anything. You just observe them. And what it becomes like you're sitting in a little boat out in the middle of the ocean, and you see a wave come towards you, and it comes to the boat and it passes the boat and keeps going. Each wave's like a thought. They just come and let them go. Let them come. They're endless. The point is not to get identified, not to interact with them, but just to stay detached from them. If you can do that, then what you're doing is you're starting to create this, I'll call it a semi-permeable membrane between your conscious mind and subconscious mind that will block those thoughts that distract you when you're trying to do your work. What do you think?
Yes. Um, First of all, if you find it difficult to concentrate, keep concentration during a meditation, especially for visualizing something, I think first step is to find to introspect what prevents your concentration, what stops your visualization. Once you find the cause of something which stops or prevent your visualization, then you can work on it separately. And one more aspect, it says, except for practice, but actually in teaching, it says we just need to practice. But I can introduce the simplest practice to enforce the power of the visualization. Please bring something very simple, whatever works, in front of you. And every day, uh, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, just concentrate to memorize everything, imprint everything, holding something in front of you. Even a white paper or whiteboard is fine. Bring it in front of you, concentrate on it, imprint it, 10 minutes, and close your eyes and visualize it. And at the beginning, a certain point, it fades out, it disappears. Then when it disappears, open your eyes and observe it again, and close your eyes. And we repeat this process again and again. Please continue this exercise maybe for 2 weeks. Then you will know the difference. You have a much empowered visualization skill.
Next question is, I wonder why other spiritual and Christian practices put so much weight on doing good for others and charity work. But Daskalos and the teachings seem to be focused solely on inner work. I understand that we could pray for others if we gain enough insight through meditations, that we can help others energetically, but I've never heard about material or physical help. No. Our service as a researcher of truth is threefold. The first level is physical. We to help somebody, we give what we can give that's ours to give. At the emotional level, if somebody's distressed or emotionally upset, we counsel and we comfort them. And if somebody's mentally lost or troubled mentally, we guide and we stand there with them. We guide and try to walk there with them. So our services is threefold on all three levels. But I think the Hindu system gives a pretty good plan for this as well, for these threefold expressions of their practice. First one is karma yoga. Just doing good service to others. That's the easiest. You don't need to be a high meditator or anything. You can just go give a hungry person food and you do good. This is obviously a physical approach. The second approach they have is called bhakti yoga, which is devotional yoga. So it brings the emotions is, oh, I love God. God is my lover. I'm just so in love with God. That'll take you faster and farther than the service one. But the best one is what they call yin yoga, which is really more of a mental meditation thing. And that's why we stress this one in our lessons and our teaching so much, because this is the fastest vehicle. Actually, we do all of them, but this mental one, you make faster movement up your path than with any of the others. Okay.
Just say the question once again, please. I just sorry, everyone.
Just wonder why Christians put the weight on doing good for others physically, where like charity, and we talk about the teachings and meditations and
Christian's question.
you just had it. Okay. Okay. Hi, Laura.
I think
I just have them in this one. No, I'm not doing that. Just
okay.
Hi, Laura. There's a great deal of awareness, she asked, these days about the concept of sovereignty. Now, this is a great question. People are mainly focusing on the aspects of our innate freedom under the law of God and the land and how we're not to cow down, we're not to bow to Caesar's laws. Just means bow to the authorities, basically, and do whatever they say. But I wonder if you can speak more deeply to the question of how it relates to aspects of our divine natures as rays of the absolute infinite beingness. How are we the masters of our destiny and yet experiencing the meekness of our small outer personality? Well, as a small outer personality, we are not the masters of our destiny. That's what the whole spiritual story is about, is to become masters. Certainly, it is the master. But have you noticed the inner self fear with what the present day personality self wants to do? And this is because the first gift of God is freedom. It gives it to all of the immediately to all the eternal spirit beings that are in beingness. Immediately, they have free will. And even down here, so then the personality, the soul is given free will, and the soul gives the personality free will. This is the nature of it. So the inner self could be a master and correct everything, just run everything fine. But we as personalities have to learn the way of the master. We have to learn how to master. And once we do that, then of course we can be stimulated in self-realization with the inner self. But the sovereignty issue is very, very important because God has given us these sovereign rights. The United States Constitution echoes the sovereign rights given to us by God. But now it's not like that. It's changing. The rights of individuals are being taken away. And really, it's out of fear because we are living right now, especially after the terrorist thing and the COVID thing and the alien invasion is probably going to come next. We live in a fear-induced reality. The media, everything that's presented to us externally, mostly with these big issues today, are saying, be afraid, be very afraid. Immediately, when you become afraid, you lose your sovereignty. You lose a connection to that I-ness that is never bound and forever free. It's always sovereign. So for us, we live in two worlds. We have to be a good citizen in this world. We don't have to say what this world is telling us is true, but we have to be a good citizens and not fight against things like, in war. But when you find your inner self, you find that sovereignty.
Lola, he mentioned about the inner self. Whatever happens, whatever we are given, what kind of condition happen around us, just stay on the nature of God, which is love, power, love and goodness, and power, silent force, calmness, peace, and wisdom. Wisdom is not knowledge. Wisdom as manifested as make action based on the knowledge in our daily life. Then that becomes wisdom. So whatever happens around you, just stay on the nature of God, because this is our aim of thousands of incarnations. So even though we are in the end of the world, whatever we call, it doesn't matter. Just stay in the nature of God and express life in our daily life to people, to the world.
This next question from Laura is really for Aki. Aki spoke a while ago about the 5-pointed star visualization and the one that could use different colors for different purposes. Could you say more about that? I sometimes wonder if the violet star could help protect against radiation from satellites and towers, etc., since the color of Raphael's, whose element is electromagnetism. Do you think that would be advisable?
You go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we do it for different reasons. Yeah, that's a good one to protect ourselves, but also to energize ourselves, the violet one. If you go to researchersoftruth.org, you're going to see the blue one of Gabrielle, where we do for being calmness and peace and tranquility. It's your.
You can make a comment. Okay. Lola, yes, I made a comment of that. Yes, basically we make a 5-pointed star with white light, luminous white light filled inside, white light, as we know. But in particular case, as she says, yes, I think it's good to create a violet 5-pointed star in that case, or if we feel like to energize our body, then we can create it. Or when we want to calm down or would like to work on the emotional body, we can create a Gabriel's sky blue 5-pointed star. And when we want to work on kind of healthy blood circulation or more kind of strength, do you want to talk? then we can create a red 5-pointed star. But when we create a red 5-pointed star, we use the right hand and go down to the left leg first and go create like this. Okay, and when we create the violet 5-pointed star, we use left hand and create the projected violet light, and we bring down our hand to the right hand side, to the right leg, and create 5-pointed star like that. When we create the Gabriel with a 5-pointed star sky blue, we use both hands, we go down like this. But I want to conclude with this word. In a specific case, we can use colored 5-pointed star, but please remember the white one is the most balanced, kind of most harmonized 5-pointed star. Because please think about the 4-sided pyramid. We have a lot of exercise of the 4-sided pyramid, right? And in front, the logos. Right side is Michael, Michael. The left side is Raphael. And the back side is Gabriel. What we are doing in the exercise of the 4-sided pyramid is balancing our personality, balancing all archangels, which is archangels of the element, which is helping the development of our emotional and psychoanalytical bodies. We are trying to balance it. So each person has the favorite color. Laura, what color do you like best? Might be violet. I like violet, but some people might like the red color more than the violet. But we all have to balance and love all the colors evenly. So creating a just favorite color, the five-pointed star is not really recommendable. So always white. White is the mixture of the all colors. So white is the balancer and the strongest. But occasionally, specifically when we need to work on for something, please use colors.
Hi, Jeff. Jeff's asking, I read in the Symbol of Life book that some of the archangels like to take the human form and materialize themselves sometimes. I'm just wondering if you have thoughts on what they would be doing in a material body and if there would be a way we could recognize them as archangels. Yeah. What they're doing in the body is they're trying to help us wake up. I mean, they have different jobs, but if one appears to you for no physical reason, is they're trying to help you wake up, basically. That's exactly what they're doing. Archangel Michael is the archangel of fire. So sometimes he likes to materialize in a human form. He likes to. Archangel Raphael very much likes to. He loves to come forward when we seek him out. He's the most approachable, I think I can say, of the archangels. He's so willing. He's ready to come when you're ready to try. Same thing about Gabriel's. They're about the liquids. So we have fire, energy, air, prana, and liquids. What about the earth element? What archangel is in charge of the earth element? Well, there aren't any archangels in charge of the earth element. The earth element is in charge, is under the control of Shamael, who provides it to the other archangels. But Shamael, when he materializes, now this is an interesting thing. He can be extremely beautiful or extremely ugly. But under no conditions are we at this point in time to try to attune to him, to try to think about him, to try to connect with him. Why? Well, he's a keeper of the duality, the law of cause and effect. So he's hostile to man because man's been hostile to his kingdom. His kingdom is the environment, and we have been destroying it. So he's hostile to man right now. When you become self-realized, no danger in connecting with it all, he'll be a loving brother to you. But as long as we have those kind of things in us that destroy his environment, he feels we're his enemy. So he's opposed to us. He has one hand connected to the archangels, which he's supplying the material stuff to, but he has the other hand connected to some other things that we don't want to be connected to. So it's just best for now not to try to connect to it. What they're doing, like I said, they're trying to wake up, but they also come into hospitals a lot. I have actually seen two in a hospital. But I have a story here from a doctor who was making his rounds late at night, one hospital, and he comes to this room with his patients that's just about to die, and he notices there's a light in there, a big light. He goes in, and he sees an angel standing over the person who's passing right then, and he just says to the guy, to the doctor, that just tells him the truth. Life incarnations, the incarnations in all of our incarnations throughout all of our lifetimes are just gradual steps of self-improvement toward perfection. That's an interesting thing for him to say. Then he said, most severely disabled children are told this and they know this, and it helps them carry their cross of their disability through life much better. And you'll notice some of these severely disabled children, they have the best attitude on life. So they have different jobs and they show up for different things, but a lot of times it's either to protect us, wake us up, or in this case, help us with the crossing.
Okay. In the exercise, okay.
I'm okay.
In the exercise, when we go in our body, and attune with our part of the body or warmness of, for example, when we attune with the warmness of our body temperature, it's Archangel Michael. No? Then when we attune with the fluid in our material body, it show we connect with the Archangel Gabriel, and when we feel the movement of the currency, we connect with the Archangel Raphael. Then whenever we try to attune with the movement or the kind of liquidity or heat, we just please try to open your heart, and just like when you love somebody, when you fall in love with someone, you try to understand or try to want to know about the person, right? Just like that, open your heart and try to understand. And one important thing is show your appreciation and relaxation, and open your heart. And when you keep your calmness, then sometimes they show up as the figure of the human form. So it's not only in the material body, even if doing introspection exercise, when we feel like a heat, energetic feeling, it shows up. When we try to cool down, Gabriel will show up. But the key is always we have to relax and try to attune, try to understand it, and the appreciation. When we appreciate something, naturally we open our heart, and that makes a bridge between them.
Okay, the next question is about sleep paralysis from Bonnie.
Okay.
And sleep paralysis, she's saying, is a feeling you can't move. You're conscious of being in your body, but you can't move. And it happens when they pass between stage of wakefulness and sleep. And during these transitions, people may not be able to move or speak for a few seconds, up to a few minutes. What are your thoughts on this? As you know, we teach the material body has an etheric double. The material world has an etheric double. And then there's a psychical counterpart to our body and the world. At night, and in a conscious exomatosis, a conscious out-of-body experience, we, as a self-awareness, transition through this boundary. We'll call it the etheric double. So keeps everything together. So it's kind of like a boundary you have to overcome. A boundary you have to overcome when you want to make a conscious out-of-body experience into the psychical world. So at night, we're making a subconscious out-of-body experience into the psychical world. So we as a self-awareness pass over. And with our passing over, we leave the creative ether. It's not that we're doing this on purpose, but automatically the creative ether gets left in the material body because it has to circulate the blood and nervous, and it's got to do all that stuff. But the aesthetic, the kinetic, which has to do with the movement, and the imprinted ethers go with the self-awareness. Not all, but most go with the self-awareness. And you have your experiences in the psychical world in what you call dreams. And you come back, but you don't remember what you had there because you haven't bridged this energy connection, the etheric connection between the two bodies. So you don't bring back the memories very much. And what you bring back is fragmented and jumbled. So it seems unreal, but it's not real. It's real experiences we're having. Now, I can tell you from my own experiences, I've had that experience where you come back in and there's a moment in there where you're conscious in the body, but you haven't seemingly reintegrated all the ethers. So you can't move your body. You can't breathe. It's just there. And it's, if you focus on that, it's scary, but usually very soon you come back out of it. Okay, I'm back in the body. But sleep paralysis, from my own direct experience, is that it's when you're coming back into the body and not all the ethers have reconnected with you as a self-awareness in that material body. I don't know if that answers it. I don't know if you understand that, but it's really just one of the etheric double.
I don't have any question about this.
Oh, really?
So maybe
Oh.
let's go next.
Okay. Okay, Thomas is asking, what are our expectations for the researchers of truth? Would you like to grow to a large number of people, or do you expect it to stay small? Did Daskalos or Yohanan communicate anything about the future of these teachings? Yes, of course. Whether it becomes big or small at this point in time, it's going to become big. But how soon, we don't know. We don't care. It's up to Daskalos and Yohanan. But they did say something. Daskalos gave us a really great clue. He said, in one of the lessons I was at back in the 90s, one day these teachings will be taught in schools, regular schools. Well, clearly, for that to happen, it has to get somewhat big, and the world has to appreciate the great value that's in these teachings, and they have to start wanting to teach it in school. And Aki and I, with the creative studio in Tulum, and Herberto, we have these projects in prisons, and the schools of Mexico have opened up and asking for us to present programs to it. So I think that's a really big clue that Daskalos said it's going to be taught in schools. And that tells you it tells you a lot if you think about it. Okay. Thank you. This is from Miss Andre. Thank you for deep studies and your loving presence. Thank you, the community, for asking questions to help us learn more. Here's my question. When I visualize myself inside a light shield, do I see myself like a mirror or from the inside of my body or whatever? It's something I keep asking myself doing the light shield meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it can be any of that, really. I mean, we're free. Of course, initially, maybe it's a little better. There's some times where there's some practices where actually you'll feel double, because what happens is you start to feel, okay, I'm sitting in a chair, I'm visualizing myself outside of myself in this light shield. And then sometimes it'll pop and you feel like you're inside, and you pop back into the vantage point of the projection, we'll call it. So it can be either. Sometimes we're told to face or look at ourselves from the front side. Sometimes I like to do it like a little mini drone, just kind of going all around and just seeing it from any angle. We're free. We just need the skills of developing visualization. You probably have an answer that you'd like to say.
Yes. Once we create, whatever the vision in our visualization exercise, please, create any vision as you are told, as it is first. But once we go deep into the meditation, it naturally happens. Sometimes we are, we observe everything in the body which we created. Or sometimes we just, our self-conscious go around, the image which we created. So it just naturally happens. But first step is just remain in the body or wherever you are told in the meditation, following the guidance. But at certain point, just flow yourself, and enjoy the experience.
Linda asks, when we pass over into the psychic world, is our consciousness/awareness the same as we experience during our day-to-day life in the material world? Or is our conscious awareness more like a fuzzy, like a confused state most of us experience when we subconsciously visit the psychic worlds when we're dreaming? So the answer is it depends, but yes is the answer. Of course, when we die, there's a period of sleep where we kind of bring down the vibrations of earth life before we wake up in the psychic psychical plane. And by wake up in the psychical plane, I mean wake up in our psychonoetical shells in the psychical plane. So we're going to see what's in our shell. Now, Daskala says 80, sometimes he says 80, sometimes he says 90% of the time, the people, it's so much like Earth, only it's just much better and brighter and easier. It's so much like Earth that 80 or 90% of the people don't even realize they passed over. So that's telling us, yes, we're going to go on continue with our daily life as we know it now. The moment we're dead, we're not 1 ounce different than what we were right before we died. So in the psychical world, we're going to continue on with our personalities, interests, and our aims in life, really. However, it's so much easier there. Most people don't make much spiritual effort because it's just so easy to hang there because we're manifesting the reality we want. We'll get into that later. Again, when we pass over into the psychic world, do we ever interact with the real version of our departed loved ones rather than elementals of them?
Can I read together?
Yeah, I'm going to stop there and say before I go on with the rest of it. That's a very good point. I heard Daskala tell one student, about on the psychical plane, you populate your shell with the people you liked and loved. Elementals, of course. However, the life of that elemental is coming from the real person. Then the guy says, "Oh, it doesn't sound very real to me just visiting elementals instead of being with the real people." And Daskala leaned in and says, "Do you really think you're with me now? Or are you with an elemental you created of me?" That's the point. So it won't feel like a bunch of holograms running around there. We're going to feel and are connected with those real people. However, since we're dressing that entity, that elemental of the person with what we know about them. There's a lot of stuff we don't know about people. So we're only going to put on them what we know about them. That's interesting, isn't it?
It's okay.
Okay. And do we ever experience the real place in the psychic world we're in, or is everyone living in their own little shells, never seeing actually what's going on around them? Most people are living in their little shells, but you can come out of it. Just like here, you're out on a bright, sunny day in the fall, and it's just wonderful outside, but you got a problem with your partner, and your guys are going at it, and you're not agreeing, and you're not happy. Even though you're in this beautiful earth environment, you could stop looking at each other and arguing and look outside and go, wow, what a glorious day this is. It's similar within the psychical world. We get caught up in these little mind emotion things, and we start to interact with our elementals, our shell, where we create the people's places and things that are now materialized in our shell. And we forget this. Wait a minute, there's the real world. It's really not behind me. You have to raise your consciousness to see the real world.
The other day, we went to the restaurant and we were eating a lunch, and the family was dining beside our table, and not just watching over, but just in our observation. Each family member was handling the iPhone, the cellular phone, and we could see each family member has a different psychonoetical shell, but eating lunch together. Same thing happened like when I used to live in Los Angeles in a big traffic jam. When the car was almost stopped in the traffic jam, when I look around, each car has a different psychonoetical shell. Just like this, we are living in a sharing space in this dimension, but each one of us has a completely different psychonoetical shell. And once we pass on, it just express as it is, inside of their psychonoetical shell as it is, without our noticing.
And her final question is, how do we come out of those shells and experience the real psychic world? Well, like I said, you have to raise your consciousness and uplift your awareness. But we do it here. We have to do it here because the more we do it here, it immediately translates over there. You can't go over there and try to be more conscious than you are here. It's not going to work. You have to do it from wherever you are. And we are here right now. That's what the training is always all for. And I'll say one other thing about that. Even though we're in our little shells, people can visit each other in their little shells exactly the way people visit each other in their houses here on Earth. So,
Mm. That's why in our exercise, we connect with our I-ness and we uh, observe everything from the viewpoint, the core of our self-awareness called I-ness. We observe everything and we train, to gain viewpoint all the time, even in this dimension. And using this viewpoint, we do introspection right before we fall asleep. Then it's going to be transferred, this viewpoint of the observation, we transfer it in the other dimension. And if we train enough, we can bring it back. So introspection exercise, especially right before you fall asleep, is so helpful and beneficial. Please try.
nice. Okay. Our friend Hugo.
Where are you?
Hugo's last question.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't have it. Can I
I
see
sent
it?
it to you on an email this morning. Yes,
Oh, okay.
just listen. There's some very good questions here. And if it's possible, could you answer my question? My question is that my whole life with my relationships with women have been complicated. I've never heard of this before. I'm working with a young woman now for the last 3 years. She's physically very beautiful and over and above that, but I feel there's an interesting connection with her. I've been trying to explore it with my holy guardian angel. However, she's quite a few years younger than me, so that creates issues by itself. Is there anything you can suggest that I can do for that? To do an introspection and maybe with right thinking, go more deeply into this, possibly find answers. Well, if you're together, it means that there are some good lessons and blessings for you. You have to discover that. So I would suggest you concentrate not on these issues you find that they're different, but on what good is coming from this relationship. What good can come from this? You're both working together. What good can you do with that? So I would suggest you energize that and don't worry so much about the differences. It turns out that I too am working with a younger woman, much younger than me. And you could think that would be a problem, but as it turns out, I'm really quite immature for my age, so it works out perfect that she's younger. Maybe that's the case with you. But whatever it is, when you get into the point, the higher you go in love, the less any of that, age or anything, makes a difference. So I presume, since this woman's in your life, that you have some good work with her, and something good's going to happen. So try to focus and bring out the good, and forget about the differences. Yeah.
Uh, Physical difference of the age is not really the matter. The For me, the matter is mm, the difference of the development and spiritual level, uh, medical level, psychical level, and also physical level difference. The difference of the physical matter is not really the big matter. More than that, all levels are important, but uh, there is some reason why you met the lady in your lifetime at that point. So whatever you receive, please accept what you are given. And if it's not acceptable after experiencing something, then you can have a choice. You have your own willpower to keep going or separate. But as long as you feel like you grow you can express better yourself, then physical difference is not the matter very much. More than that, we should think highly or put the weight of the development of our spirituality, because our physical incarnation is uncountable. But, but the meeting someone who is very important is such a precious event. So just surrender to your gift which you are given from the universe. I think, Daniel, we think the answer to the first question, which people use one day. Maybe you have paper.
No, it's not on there.
You sure? This is our first question.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go back to the first question, but Danielle asked a question about this left hand, right hand thing, and she's asking, is the symbol of life mirrored? And no, the symbol of life is constructed exactly the same. It's just our contact with the currents of energy in our body in this symbol is different for left-handed and right-handed, as we mentioned before. Bertold asked a question, can we keep developing our connection and visualization abilities after passing into the psychical plane? In other words, can we keep constructing the symbol of life after physical death? I've heard that this is a great time of waking that had to take place years ago. I think those are two different questions. Okay, yeah, when we pass over, we will. If you're interested, keep working with the symbol and the teachings and everything. And we will keep doing the 5 golden keys of concentration, observation, introspection, visualization, and meditation. But now there's a difference. While we're in the material world, we're using those 5 golden keys primarily on forms and relationships of other forms, relationships of people, but on forms of life. We were studying forms of life. We're studying the form, but when we pass into psychoanalytical worlds, we'll still use the 5 golden keys, concentration, observation. But this time we're going to use it on the ideas behind the form. So we're going to be studying, using the same golden keys, but using them at a much, much higher rate and studying the form behind it. Now, I mean, the idea behind it, because everything existing, whatever form exists, has an eternal archetypal idea behind it. Or it's based on an eternal archetypal idea in the noetic. So what we start to do is start to understand really how this is really working. And the power is with the idea. It's not with the form. The form is the puppet. The power is the puppeteer, if you will. And so, yeah, we would do it after the thing. But here's an interesting thing. Must we create this? Now we're told we have to create the symbol of life on the etheric double of the material body. Once we pass over, do we have to make it on the etheric double of the psychical body and then the etheric double of the noetical body? What do you think? No. All we have to do is get it well created and embedded in our etheric double of material body. And then the archangels take care of building it on the higher bodies. This is a great, great boon. Great, great boon. All we have to do is this one part of it. Okay, I heard that this time was a time of great awakening that had to take place decades ago. I heard also that old energies and their representatives prevent us and the planet from this process. Sure. Can I comment? Sure. Of course. I mean, old habits, just think of it as your personal life. Old habits from a year ago are holding you back now, or from 5 years ago. So for sure, those old energies are trying to keep us in place. And it is a time of great awakening. But like I just said in the beginning, you got to do your own research. A lot of people are telling us saying there's so much falsehood out there. There's so much. It's a prevalence of falsehood. The truth is very, very hidden, but you can find it if you really deeply research, and don't just listen to what other people tell us the truth is. Don't just listen to the media telling us what the truth is. Don't listen to Dr. Bill Gates telling us what the truth is. Christ said, seek the truth and the truth will liberate you. Those who listen and depend upon only the guidance of external voices can fall in the same ditch that these guys are heading to. So just, it is a time of great awakening. Just be patient, be calm, try to raise your vibrations yourself as much as possible so that you can enjoy the great awakening that's coming. Christ had 12 disciples. What's the significance of the number 12? Well, it's a holy number. It's the what I want to say, constellations. The 12 zodiac signs. There's 12s everywhere. It's just an important number. And then Christ makes the 13th. So he's the one, and the 12 represent like the circle. Yeah.
Yes, we will continue our work until we reach the self-realization. We will keep going to shape our psychoanalytical body until we create a perfect archetype of a human being. So until we reach the completion, even though we're passing away or passing on this dimension to the other dimension, we will continue all the way. And about the meaning of the 12, as he says, it's a holy number. Just imagine it, the four-sided pyramid. Four-sided pyramid had 4 aspects, 4 elements. Tetractys, 4 elements, expression of 4 elements in this dimension. But each triangle, just imagine 4-sided pyramid. Each side has 3 lines, right? Triangle consists of the triangles, right? In that way, from the world of the beingness, when it manifests into the world of existence, something, whatever, it has 3 nature of God and also 4 aspects of the expression of God. So each side of the 4 sides of the pyramid has 3 divine nature in each side, right? So 4 by 3 becomes 12, which means whatever exists in this world or wherever the point in this world has a 12 aspect of God, 12 expression. And as he said, the central point is always the Christ. So which consists of number 13. That's why zodiac sign is 12, and we can see many of 4 directions. We have north, south, east, and west. That's the 4 aspect. But in each aspect, we have divine nature, 3 divine nature in it. So everything is consists of the aspect, 12 aspect of God in the world of expression. And the always center in the middle is Christ, Logos, God.
Okay, there's another. Yeah, I missed quite a few here. Okay. Manuel's asking if there's a good Bible to buy in Spanish that has not been modified or changed. Really don't know much about that, but the Bibles, they're constantly being changed. But most of the Bibles were written by not the disciples, but the followers. And they were written in Greek because most of them were Greek followers. And some were written in Aramaic. But then they took the Greek one and they translated it into Aramaic and then translated it back into Greek and ended up with like 254 Bibles. And some guy went along and said, well, I'm going to use this one to write the English version, the King James version. So they're all kind of messed up. Daskalos just liked a simple Greek Bible. It's just basic. I have found a good one. There's this one. It's translated from like a lot. It's a Syrian Bible. but they've all been altered a lot. But still, the New Testament and all of them are fantastic. There's so much great information on there. And I've noticed a researcher of truth. There's a researcher of truth team in Mexican. Are you planning to translate or give some teachings in this language, or will it always be in English? Well, Swimming with the Whale was first translated in Spanish from Spain. Mexican Spanish is different. I don't understand too much about why, but they are different. So the team in Tulum are working on, well, we're all working on this jail projects, but they're working on translating some of the teachings into English to take into the jails. We're trying to start this new program where we've been doing it, but we're going to expand it and take it into the prisoners. And the prisoners are so thirsty. You cannot believe how excited they get when they start to hear Christ's teachings stripped from the dogma and all the prejudice off it. They really resonate with it. You want to say something? Oh, yeah. And he's saying, I'm sure some brothers like me could help if you decide to do it someday. Yeah, I mean, there's Swimming with the Whale, or part of it is now translated in Czechoslovakian. Aki and her Japanese group are translating a lot of materials into Japanese. There's already Swimming with the Whales in Japan. There's lots of Portuguese, German, a couple books in German. One's already done, another one's coming out. So yeah, we plan to do it. We don't speak those languages, so we do need help. Okay, and John's asking, he said, Daskalos mentioned there are actual 7 qualities of ether. There are 4 that are taught. Can you say anything about the other 3? Even a hint about their nature? Yeah, he doesn't really reveal that to the inner more circles, but I'll say a little something. The higher, we have the kinetic, sensate, the imprinted, the creative. The next one is electric, magnetic, and then the top one, the highest one, is really formless, but is sometimes called ethereal. But really, all of it's ethereal, but it's just at what level of vibration is that ethereal vibrating on. So they're all together. There's not one piece of matter or anything you can find that doesn't have all 7 of them right there together with it. Of course, we can't access the highest 4 right now, but we will. We will. Did Daskalos speak about them? Is there anything more about the nature of creative ether that Daskalos spoke about besides that it's not naturally under our control and it's involved in dematerialization? Yeah, I mean, not dematerialization, materialization. Does the creative ether have a fairly distinctive higher and lower nature to it? When we're talking about the ether, we have to include the 3 worlds of existence because the etheric counterpart of the material world, there's an etheric counterpart of the psychic world, an etheric counterpart of the noetical world. So in that sense, there's higher expressions of them. The nature of creative ether is the nature, but it's found in different rates of vibration, different frequencies of expression. So the expression on the material world, it's not as vibrating as high as the psychic world or as the noetical world. So yeah, there are something about that. These other states of ether have to do with materialization and dematerialization and extension of consciousness. But he doesn't really give that out very much, so I don't think I should say much about it. Okay.
The creative ether, as he says, we don't do much because, first of all, please don't separate the kinetic, aesthetic, and imprinting, creative. It's not like a separate stuff. It's all in one. And we start, it's just an aspect or function of one ethereal things. So top 3 is like a ethereal and magnetic, ethereal, electric, and magnetic, the top 3. But it's all in one. Once we start with the kinetic, aesthetic, and imprinting ether, and once we master 3 of them, then creative ether comes automatically because creative ether is under the supervision of the Holy Spirit. So, in a sense, once we self-realize, it comes automatically. But to reach, in, a, in a sense, once we step by step train kinetic, aesthetic, imprinting ether and balance them and harmonize them perfectly, then at time all creative ether comes to us. So once it comes, which means self-realization, we can handle materialization and dematerialization also. In the instant system, it's called Kundalini. It's sitting at the bottom of the spine, or center number 10. So in our teaching system, that's why we don't touch this center until the very end. And it's not necessary. The most important thing is to get familiar with the other first three and master completely. Then it comes automatically. Yeah, please, if you have the answer.
Are there teachings from the inner and inmost circles still accessible since Daskalos has left his body? Well, it's not given to the general public, but there are different locations on the planet where there's a lot of it, a few different locations. And yeah, there's no shortage of teachings, that's for sure. There was about most of the teachings he started with the big at the last was like in the 90s where all the people started coming to him more, and before he had smaller groups of Cypriot students, and he said they were very dedicated. So what you find is you have about 500 lessons from the outer circle things from the past. Then there's about 500 some guy took from the Greek, which are very deep ones because he gave the deeper stuff first, and then at the end of his life, he gave the outer circle lessons more. It was all through there, but his students, he said, were much more advanced. And he said later they came, they had a lot of interest, but they weren't as skilled or whatever. So anyway, a lot of people, since I've been doing the website, people have just been giving me stuff from back from the 60s, the 70s. We ended up with this whole body of knowledge, but it has to be, it wouldn't do you any good. It's almost like you have to learn, for sure, you have to learn how to study atomic physics, what an atom is, before you can be taught what subatomic physics are. And it's the same way in this thing. Daskalos very clearly laid it out as outer circle, innermost circle, and innermost circle. And that's where the real deep stuff was. But he had very few, he had like 6 students in that innermost circle. Outer circle, he had 601 circle. He had many circles. So there were a lot of outer students, but he wanted it to be given out in a methodical, systematic way, and not just dump a bunch of information on people, because people that go for the information, and we've seen a lot of them, they want the top information first. They become like jewel collectors. They put the little jewels around. They can talk to you about it, but they're like jewels. They haven't experienced it themselves because they haven't gone step by step. I see this in the practices. I see this in the teaching all the time. It's like they want to run to the top of the ladder, but they're missing steps. You need every step in this ladder to really ascend safely to the top. So yeah, it's being protected, it's being disseminated slowly and into people who are ready for the next level, and it's going to be accessible to the world when we reincarnate.
And when we really sincerely work on the exercise using the teaching, first we receive the teaching, whatever simple things, but if we try to manifest it in our daily life and really doing so sincerely, Then in the meditation or in the healing occasion of the healing, higher entities will help us and guide us perfectly through our intuition or through our experience, color, whatever. This is really direct contact with the teaching. So, of course, all the material are so precious. We have to be well preserved. But please remember, even in our simple attitude or behavior in our daily life, if we execute it with goodness, love, peace, then we automatically can receive the innermost teaching from archangels or our teacher directly. This is a really true teaching. We have to experience it.
I guess we'll just keep going. What did it feel like to be in the presence of Daskalos? Was his aura, energy, very strong or very soft? Can you share your experiences, what it was like to be in close interaction with him? What did it feel like? That felt like love, because it was love. But he had a lot of ways he communicated himself to the students, a lot of ways he expressed himself, and to me too. And sometimes it was soft and tender like a mother. Sometimes it was strong like your father. Sometimes it was just enjoyable like he was your grandfather. And most of the time, he was like master of the universe because he knew how everything worked. So there were no stumping questions to him. He knew how it all worked. So it was like that gave you a feeling of being very, very secure. You really felt safe because you were with someone who actually knew the truth that you were seeking.
I have the same experience. Sometimes he shows up very strong way without any smile. Sometimes he just show like a wind. So when I receive the breeze, oh, I feel him and I feel the guidance. Like that way, his spirit soul is already super self consciousness, which means he's everywhere. He knows us completely, what's going on and what we need. So as long as we keep sincere prayer with a clean heart, and when we ask for connection or guidance or help, he never ever missed our voice. If we feel, oh, our voice didn't reach to him, this is the problem on our side. He knows everything because he's already super self-consciousness. The divine law is perfect.
But you made a point. We have to reach them. So
Yes.
concentration, it's like makes our voice louder to God and to Him. The more we can concentrate, the clearer and the more of a loud message it is. Consciously. Okay, before I answer we answer the last one. This is the last one. I also want to say something to Manuel about the Spanish teachings. There are some on YouTube right now. I think if you look under investigadores, investigadores de la verdad. So Google that, investigadores. Investigadores. I can't read it.
Wait, I can read it for you.
Investigadores.
Oh, it's okay.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Come on, talk.
Social media platform investigadores de la verdad.
Investigators of the truth, basically.
Ah.
Notice where you're sitting. So Eric's asking about the baptism of fire, and if we could say something general about it. It's the second baptism, corresponding with the second crucifixion in the symbol of life. work. The first baptism is baptism of water. Everybody knows, and it's the baptism for the remission of sins. But I ask you now, why, when they have a little baby who's just born, do they go get it christened and baptized in water for the forgiveness of its sins if it didn't live before? It seems like the church used to acknowledge that. For what's the other reason? The baptism of fire, though, is something much, much different. The baptism of water, minutes and it's over. The baptism of fire, centuries. And when in Pentecost, when the disciples had that flame above their head, they were just beginning to enter the phase of the baptism of fire, which I said again last century, so lifetimes. It's a baptism of it goes along with the crucifixion of your egotism. So it's a baptism of like purifying you of any dross, any heaviness, any egotism that would prevent you to go to the higher states. And then the third baptism is the baptism of spirit. And it's, again, an instantaneous thing. And that you don't reach that one until right before you merge and become one with God again, right before a spirit self-realization. We have the first baptism of fire at the self-realization, permanent inner self-realization, let's say that. Then the baptism of fire happens here, and then the baptism of spirit happens here, where we're talking about the pass on the symbol of life. So you see these three horizontal lines on the symbol of life. Those represents the three crucifixions and the three baptisms that any seeker of truth will eventually go through before they reach God in spirit self-realization. And the first one can be quite painful because it's a crucifixion of your egotism. So it's going to be as painful as you are attached to your egotism. But the next one, this baptism of light, is not. It's there. You're just giving yourself in service to God. So and the first crucifixion is painful. Second one not. Third one not. The second and third baptisms and crucifixions are actually pleasing. So we had a whole workshop here, 5 days on that one time. So there's a lot to it, but we'll just leave it at that for now. And you can talk now. Yes.
Do you want to say more about
I did, but I'm
that?
not going to. I'm okay now. That's good enough.
Okay. At a certain incarnation cycle, we start the baptism of fire. As he says, it's so painful because we have to cleanse completely, much with the quality of God. So we have to really work on, cleansing or emotion thought type of elementals. Instead of that, we have to create more and more creative thought emotional type of elementals. And the experience will come and cleanse and cleanse and cleanse with experiences like burning with fire. So the fire elemental, as originally we came from fire, expressed as fire, and solidified into the material body after cooling down, right? So to ascend, we have to burn all kind of earth elemental, water elemental, and burn and then make ourselves as a pure fire self. To do this process, we really need to cleanse a lot, which means for us, we have impression those experiences as very bitter, painful experiences, mostly. But after overcoming, we express more purified divine nature of God. Done? What do you want to say?
No, we're done. Thank you for sticking around. We get so many questions that goes way beyond the number. Sorry about that. But again, you can find the Spanish stuff on YouTube. The word I was trying to say was just simply researchers of truth. So you'll find it. And looking forward to seeing you guys next time. These are great questions, and there's a lot happening right now. I mean, it was mentioned about the Great Awakening. There's a lot going on, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's going to be difficult or it's going to be a new golden age, because the work for us is going to be the same. If society goes nuts and we have all these lockdowns and quarantines and restrictions and the whole economy collapses, we still have to do the work. If there's a great awakening, oh wow, everything's getting better. Oh, the heavy-handed government control is backing off, and we're always going into a golden age. We still have to do the same work. It's just, it might be a little nicer and easier if the world will get a little enlightened. But nonetheless, it's just, the story's the same for us. We just have to raise our consciousness, uplift our self-awareness. And the best way to do that is just simply by loving others and doing good, being a good person. This isn't about magic anymore. That's all they had before. But now Christ brought the ray of love. And he said for the first time that anybody ever heard, love your enemies. What? Even loving your neighbor at that time was a big deal. So it was a time of evolution on the planet where man was ready to receive this message of love for the first time. And so we're working in that system now. We're not working in the old Mayan system and the old Hindu system, or these old systems that use magic formulas to produce results. And we don't need them. All right?
Let's express life in our daily life, even for the small matters. It doesn't matter. Be nice to other people. Express better self day by day.
Okay, guys, have a great day. We'll see you next time. Keep your questions coming. They're great.
Many blessings to you.
Bye.
Bye bye.